Okay, I'm super excited about bringing you today's case study, a little bit more of a mature case study in terms of where Eric is at with his three different businesses. But he wouldn't be there if he hadn't already harnessed the power of delegation. So let's just start with where you are today, Eric. So can you explain the three different businesses and how you incorporated and integrated delegation into growing your three different brands?
All right, it's a big question, but let me jump in there, and I'll try to give you the quick version of that. So three companies. One is a Branditize, and we're a full service digital agency where we come in and be like strategist, fractional CMO, and then not just coming up with ideas, but we actually have a team to do the work and building systems and teams. And part of we'll talk about delegation in a second. Second company is an offshoot of that called Celebritize, which is doing the same thing, full service, building out a team. But actually, we partner up with big influencers and or celebrities where we come in and actually help them build their own product line versus them being a brand ambassador. They get to be their own product, build their own thing that they get passionate about. Yet to do that, they need marketing operations and usually money. And we bring that capital as well as the operations and marketing. We essentially become their partners and run their business for them and get a piece of the company in doing that business. And the third business, which again you and I know each other well from, is something called Speakeasy Mastermind, which is a local slash global mastermind community for entrepreneurs that are very engaged, marketing centric entrepreneurs, people that are engaged in business dev, marketing, sales, really growth strategies, innovations. And the idea there is we build local chapters across the globe, and then we connect everybody globally as well as their local chapters. Each local chapter meets once a month, and we build out a team to do that. In order for us to do all of those, we certainly need to. I've had to invoke the all sorts of laws of delegating into that framework. Interestingly enough, I talk a lot about me, my business partner, others, and we're at the other ends of the spectrum. I joke with him a lot because he's got the issue I see a lot of entrepreneurs, which is that he just wants to solve, and he finds it easier I'll just do it myself. And I'm like always yelling at him and saying, you are a cog, and I like we're failing because you can't get it in a way. And like he knows that every time I tell him that, it's just so comfortable for him to do it. I love him, but we butt heads, and then like he sees me on the other route. And my route is, and I love to use the car analogy. So my delegation is the car analogy. I always talk about the person in the wheel of the car is the person doing the task. And I will always say, if I'm in the car driving, I never go in the car alone. I say I cannot go in the car alone because if I go in the car alone, nobody's going to learn what I'm doing. Therefore, I can't get out of the car. My job is to get out of the car as much as possible so I can be overseeing many cars on the highway of the world I'm doing as much as possible. If there's a new task or project, immediately I'm like, who am I going to bring in the car with me? Because I'm not going to do this project very long. I'll do it a couple times. Or better yet, if I can understand the project, I might sit next to the car with somebody and say, all right, here's what we need to do. You get behind the wheel and I'll sit in the car in the passenger seat, watch you drive the car so I can get out of there faster. So I think a lot of it is just asking that question. I know Dan Sullivan writes his book, Who Not How. I think about that all the time. And I remind my team about that. Who's going to do this? Not how am I going to do it? And what projects am I doing? And how quickly can I get out of the projects I'm doing? And so it just, and I fundamentally understand that I will always be busy. There's another set of tasks. I'm never not busy. And so I know sometimes I've talked to entrepreneurs that are fearful of what am I going to do? This makes me feel important. This is my self worth. And I think they have a hard time understanding that there's 100 other things that are come their way. Not only that, they're going to actually be able to do what they should be doing, which is being more visionary and being able to see what next problem is going to align. They can't do that when they're driving a car. They got to be out of there to understand what goes on. So I'll just pause there. Otherwise, I can ramble for a while.
No, that's great. And so let's get a little bit more tactical. So when you are bringing on a new team member, whether it's a virtual assistant or just a specialist in the team, what are some of the steps or protocols that you follow to ensure that you end up with a good hire for the positions that you have?
For a good hire, to start with the hiring, I think what's important is really taking the time to take a step back and what are the roles and responsibilities of the job that's required, what's needed. And if you can't understand that and spend time doing that, then I think you're going to it's easy to have a miss. And even when you do that exercise, think about who was in that position before and what was great, what was not great. And knowing what you know now, how would you do it over again? Or what characteristics did you wish they had in this role to be better? Otherwise, they're going to be in the wrong seat. They're going to fail. So how could we get them the right kind of person? So once you identified the role, then you think about what kind of personality is this role going to be. If you need, for example, if you need somebody to be client facing and talking to people or in customer support, and they're actually not just customer support on email, but they're customer support talking to somebody, then you probably don't want a very introverted person. So how can you test for that? How can you ask in the interviews, hey, are you introverted? Or tell me the last times. Does that give you energy? You can ask questions. Do you like talking to people? Does that get you energized? Or is that by the end of the day, you so burnt out, you're just struggling to get through the day because you have a hard time talking to so many people. That person shouldn't be the one you hire for support. And we tend to maybe we'll look at experiences and look at a resume and saying, oh, they were in customer support, therefore they'd be a great hire. But maybe they were customer support doing email tickets. So like little things like that could be missed, but understand the personality types that you need and really question for that based on the role is what I look for.
Awesome. And I believe you recently, I can't remember how long it's been now, but you've hired a virtual assistant from us. So what
Yeah.
led to that decision, and kind of walk me through how much involvement did you personally have with that, or did you have a team member help you with that whole process?
Yeah, I think it started with anytime I like to hire, I like to go with people I trust. And I know this isn't, you weren't necessarily asking for this, but I think just in watching you work, Vijal, and seeing the way you operate with your systems, I had a high degree of trust because I see how organized you are compared to a lot of other firms. There's a lot of firms that talk a game, but I think I saw what you did, then I witnessed, and then I heard you out there being a thought leader and teaching, which means, okay, this guy has it, he cares, he's really going to work with his staff and his team. And I think Be Epic in general had a really cool model and not just really different from most I've seen. Most people just, hey, let me just give you a candidate and then move on. You actually care about your people. You go out there, you hire, and you do ongoing training. Right now, we're in a world where there's so many different things and technologies and platforms. And for us to get that added value of our members getting trained and learning the latest on AI, learning the latest on this funnel or that funnel, it's just so much more added value because that means it allows me to ensure that they're at the top of the game without needing to do additional ongoing training for that. And I think that they themselves, what I've learned is people want jobs where they can grow and feel like they're growing and feel like they're learning. And you're helping take a big load of that off my plate for some VAs, which I may not have the time to necessarily do, unfortunately. So that's a huge added value that I think people might miss when looking to recruit from, hey, let me just go find somebody overseas or in the Philippines that you guys offer. So I really love that model. And for the price, it was, a joke for doing that. It's such a no brainer. That's really why I started with that. And then I think your process was good. And I think you were really welcoming with your team to ensure we did interview and interview until we find the right person. I think spending that time in advance, helping your team understand what we're looking for allowed us to have pretty high quality interviews. And what was important, I found, and what I really liked is after every interview, your team was asking for feedback. Okay, how do we even fine tune it better? And what did we like or not like? And it was like good to almost agree after the interviews, like, okay, we both agreed this wasn't right for these reasons. All right, let's go find that next person. And it wasn't like pressure to go sign somebody. It was like, let's get it right. We found our person and we're very happy with the people we've hired through you.
That's awesome. Now, obviously, having facilitated the mastermind, I think over a decade now, you've been doing the mastermind. So you've come across a lot of different types of businesses, right? What advice do you have for, say, someone, I would say newbie, but not necessarily newbie, but someone who's about to make their first hire? They've already got their first team member, they haven't quite dialed it in. What advice do you have for people who are about to start growing a remote team?
I think you have to take it serious and realize you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So if you're going to grow a remote team, once again, understand the roles and responsibilities. In the case of a remote team, you're going to have to stay in the car a little bit longer than you might with somebody else, different culture, different team, meaning get behind the wheel, let them sit next to you, show them what they're doing, then let them take the wheel and really guide them. Don't get out of the car too quickly. Watch them do the work, follow up with them, and just stay on them on your regular meetings. And then you can go to maybe a daily check-in or a couple days times a day and then it can go to every couple of days and make sure you're just following up. How's it going? What can I help you with? I think, especially in working with people in the Philippines, my experience is they're very polite, but they also don't want to be pushy and they're very respectful. So they may not want to bother you with questions. Sometimes you have to pull it out of them and make them feel comfortable saying, hey, it's okay. Tell me what's not great, or what do you suggest you can improve? What can we do to make your job easier? And really just pull out of them because they might be a little intimidated they're because they come from that world of being respectful. So that's what I've learned through that process.
So now that you've reached very, I would say, pinnacle levels in your businesses, but you're certainly very clear about your role in your businesses. So when it comes to you now delegating things that you are still doing, how do you go about that at that level? You've obviously got multiple team members across three different businesses, but I always find that there's still ways we can optimize our time. How do you decide what's next for you to delegate?
It's as simple as me going through what the hell am I doing today and who, not how. What on my list am I still doing? And my first question is, why am I doing this task? Is there somebody else that could be doing this? Can I train them up to take this off my plate? I get it. Sometimes you're bootstrapping and you don't. Like even the mastermind we've been talking about, There's a lot of stuff that I'm way more in the weeds on this right now because it is a startup and we didn't have big budgets yet. So I might be doing, but even on that, I'm saying, okay, let me create systems. Let me start thinking about what I'm going to get off my plate first. Like even before I hired somebody, I started Google Doc with, okay, here's the task I'm going to start now. Take it off as soon as I can. So I think there's just that level of thinking. And then you're like, okay, then I'll stay in my lane. And to me, what's important to know what lane you should stay in is back. I talk a lot about the genius, your zone of genius. Dan Martell talks about this too. Playing in is the green, yellow, and the red, right? The green gives you energy. It's stuff you love to do. You're good at, and it gives you energy, and you like to do it. You're good and you love to do it. Yellow, I could be good at it, but I don't say love to do it, or maybe I don't really love to do it, but I'm still, either way, like you're. And then the red is I'm not good at it, and I don't like doing it, still doing it. That's the stuff you want to delegate as soon as possible, as soon as you have budget, and immediately get that off your plate. So yeah,
Cool. Right, one last question in
yeah.
60 seconds or less. If you could give one piece of advice or encapsulate some aspect of your experience that somebody could find useful when it comes to delegating or hiring a virtual assistant or managing a virtual assistant, what would it be?
I think it would be, well, part of it is you haven't. I would say just get started. Just do it. Force yourself into doing it because I think typically it's almost like you ask people, why haven't they? And I think they haven't because I don't see how they're going to be able to do this. And I would say, open your mind to the possibilities that you think that they could. I continue to get shocked every day about the level of talent that is overseas. And you think that maybe, are they really going to be able to do this? The answer is yes. Just because they're overseas doesn't mean they're not extremely intelligent, hungry, and wanting to do the work. So get that limiting belief out of your head and just get started. Go hire and try it out. It's the bigger risk is I know it's not a money risk in most cases. It's really a time risk on yourself. But you have to ask yourself, how much time can I get back once I'm able to do that? So figure out how to take a step back. You've got to carve out, even if it's an hour a day at the end of the day or half hour just to get started to think I'm going to work on training this. Choose one step back to go many steps forward. So worth it. So take that time and just get going.
Awesome. Hey, Eric, I just appreciate you so much for taking some time out and answering a few questions. And hopefully, if anyone's reading this or watching this, you've picked up something that's going to help you either take that first step in delegation, or more importantly, in this particular case, the potential that when we are willing to delegate, not only can we win back that time, we can actually be running multiple businesses without it having to be a 200-hour work week. So, Eric, again, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you real soon here in Vegas.
All right. See you soon, Joe. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye bye.